The license of this open source software should not harm or should not make a changes to my software which is already exist in my system. If I wanted to change something or if I wanted to modify the content of that software, we can do it without paying anything. That is what free software. This GNU operating system will comprise of completely free software. They are not only giving you the source code, along with that they are going to give you the license. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I welcome you all to the session 1 on chapter 16, that is Internet and Open Source Concepts. I am Rohini TS, lecturer, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. So in this chapter, till now you have heard a word called Internet, but you are not so familiar with the open source concept. So in our today's session, we will be learning with this concept. That means, what do you mean by open source concept? What is the need of having this? Along with that, we will be learning regarding the kinds of software, like if I am saying what is freeware, what is shareware, what is firmware. So we are going to deal with all those things in our today's session. So in our today's session, we will be discussing about the introduction regarding this chapter. That means what is internet and open source concept, and also we will be discussing regarding what do you mean by free software, then open source software. Along with that, we will be discussing about what is OSS and FLOSS, that flaws, and also we will be learning regarding the GNU, then FSF, OSI, W3C, then proprietary software. This is what we will be learning in our today's session. So let me get into this today's session, that is regarding internet and open source software concept. So as we all know that internet is nothing but what? For the communication purpose, we are all using the internet. Then we are going to use some of the software in order to instruct the hardware to do some task. So in that, we are going to have a set of instruction which may be freely available. For example, if I say operating system, so that is the main thing that must be there in the computer system. So without the operating system, computer is just a dumb machine, right? So can I make a changes to my operating system? Is that possible? So if it is available to the end user or if it is available to the user for the modification, for the changes, then how things will go for the modification with respect to the copying, redistributing. So how the things will going to takes place. So you can take the example of Windows operating system. Is there any possibility of making a changes to already existing operating system? Can we get the source code? So if I get the source code, then there will be a possibility of making a modification, but we won't get the source code for this operating system. That means what? We can't do any modification or we can't do any changes over there. But there will be some software which is source code, which its source code is available. We can do some modification, we can do some changes. Then that is all regarding this open source software. That means source code is open for everybody. I can do the modification, I can do the changes, whatever I wanted to do the modification with respect to the source code which is available for everybody. Then we can make a changes with the help of that open source concept. That is what we will be discussing here. So if you consider this open source software, so the term open source software is used to refer to those categories of a software or a programs whose licenses do not impose much conditions. If I wanted to use any of the software or if I wanted to use any of a set of program, then those licenses of that software or licenses of that set of program will not going to impose more conditions or more criteria. So that means that source code is freely available. We can make a changes, we can make a modification with respect to that particular software or a program. So we have many categories of the software that may going to be referred as a open source software. We'll see the first type, that is related to free software. As the name indicates, software is free for everybody. With respect to what? If I wanted to change something or if I wanted to modify the content of that software, we can do it without paying anything. That is what? Free software. So software source code is freely available to everybody. So that free software means that software is freely accessible, can be freely used, changed, improved, copied and distributed by all who wish to do. That means if I wanted to wish or if I wish to work with any of the software which is freely available, I can get its source code. Then what I can do with that source code, I can easily use that without paying anything, that is freely available, and I can change the content of that particular source code, and I can do some improvements. That means I can add my own features to the existing feature. Along with that, I can copy, I can distribute with my name in terms of free software or in the terms of freely available software. So this is for everyone, and they are giving the source code for free. So if you wanted to make a changes, you can do that. So no payments are needed to be made for the free software. As the name indicates, it is a free itself. So we are not supposed to pay any money, or we are not supposed to pay anything in order to use that software. So by getting that source code, I can make a changes, I can do some improvisation, and I can copy that content, I can redistribute it to everyone. With my name also I can redistribute it. That is what free software. So what are the benefits, or what are the criteria we have to follow when we are having this free software? Mainly the freedom to run the program for any purpose. If I am getting any free software, or if I am getting any of the free programs or a set of programs, at that time I can use that particular software or a program for any purpose. It is not only for the educational purpose, it is not only meant for the organization, it is not only meant for the entertainment. So whatever the code which is available freely, I can use it as per my requirement or as per my wish. So there is no restriction of using that for a particular field, or there is no restriction of using that freeware for a particular purpose. So you can use it for any purpose. Then the freedom to study how the program works and adopt it to your needs. So I can get to know how this program is working, how this software instructions are working. So if I get to know that, then I can do some modification, I can adopt that changes to my requirement. So in order to satisfy the requirement of ours, we can do some modification when we get to know what is there in the software and how it will going to work. And also the freedom to redistribute copies. So you just imagine you have a set of program, or you have a source code of particular free software, but you wanted to improvise something, you wanted to add some content, you can do that. After doing that, you can redistribute that copies to other with your name. That is what we can get with the help of this free software. And also the freedom to improve the program. As I told, if I wanted to insert some of the modifications, or if you wanted to improve the program than the existing program, then that is also possible with the help of this free software. I hope you all understood. We'll move to the next one, that is open source software. In short, it will be considered as what? OSS, open source software. So as the name indicates, here source code is open for everybody. Everybody can use, but we have to pay. So that is what? Open source software. So it depends on the developer whether they are giving that source code without cost, whether they can distribute it with cost or with some payment also. That is left to the developer who is giving this open source software. So that open source software, on the other hand, can be freely used, but it does not have to be free of charge. So what it is? We can distribute, we can copy, we can redistribute, we can improve, we can make a changes. Whatever we wanted to do with this open source software, we can do that. But if I wanted to get that source code, I have to pay. That is depends on the developer whether they are giving it freely to the user in order to make some changes to the source code, or they are taking some charges in order to make a changes to the source code. That purely depends on the developer. And also here, mainly we can get all the benefits as of the free software. The main changes between the free software and open source software is, free software is available without any cost, no need to pay anything. But when it comes to the open source software or a OSS, then we have to pay. So then only I can get the benefit out of that set of programs or a software. And also open source software does not just access to the source code. The distribution terms of the open source software must comply with the following criteria. So when I'm getting open source software by paying some money or amount, I'm going to get some more benefits. I'm not just getting the accessible to the source code. Along with that, I'm getting some of the benefits. What are that? So free redistribution. As I told, you can take a software from some other developer, you can do some changes, you can modify the content which is already available. After that, what you can do, you can redistribute it with your name. So then you will be the developer. If anybody wanted to take the improved version of the previous software, then they have to pay for you. So that left to you whether you wanted to get it paid or not. That is what free distribution. So you can get it, that means you can redistribute it with the help of this open source software. And also you can get a source code, then derived work. So what it indicates, derived work, for example, if I say what's your age, at that time if you are saying your age, I can't find out your date of birth. I can get to know what is your date of year, that means birth year I can get to know, but I will not get what's your date of birth. So, but if you say your date of birth, I can easily find out your age. That means what? Age is a derived work here. So, in the same way, if I am getting this open source software, then I can use this as a derived work. So, that piece of code can be used somewhere else in order to do some other projects or in order to do some other software or programs. And then no discrimination against person or group. So if you are approaching in order to get the open source software, if someone is approaching for in order to get the open source software, there is no discrimination between any persons or any country or any of the groups. So it is available for everybody with some cost. So if you wanted to get it, you need to pay as much as they are requiring. After that, you can get all the source code and you can do whatever the work that you wanted to do with this open source software. There is no discrimination among any of the persons or a group. And also, there is no discrimination against fields or groups. So here they are not going to ask you whether you are using it only for the organization purpose, whether you are using it only for the educational purpose. There is no rules or there is no restriction over its fields or groups. So you can use it wherever you want by whomever you want. That means no discrimination against groups, fields or any of the person. So that is the main thing. And also distribution of license. So they are not only giving you the source code, along with that they are going to give you the license. So with the help of that you can do modification, then you can have your own license. So then those who wanted to have this open source software, they are going to purchase your license with a set of features that what and all you have prepared or developed. And then license must not specific to a product. So here also license should not rely on any kind of product, whether the product is related to goods or services. It should not depend on anything. So mainly what it is, it should not rely on anything. So whether it is freely available, whether it is charged, so whether you are using it only for the education purpose, whether you are using it only for the entertainment purpose, they should not think about anything like for what purpose you are getting, who is getting, when they are getting. So there should not be any discrimination regarding anything. So their main task was they have to get paid something and they have to give their source code to the person, those who are in need. In order to satisfy the requirements and need of a user, they need to pay. So that means they have to give the source code to the user, those who are in need. So here also license must not specific to a product. It should not depends on any product, whether you are taking it only for the goods. So if you are taking it for raw material purpose, something like that, then it should not rely on any of the product. There should be no discrimination among the products or kind of purpose or a products. And also the license must not restrict other software. For example, I have one software which is already installed in my system. Now I wanted to get this open source software as a additional thing. At that time, the license of this open source software should not harm or should not make a changes to my software which is already exist in my system. That means what? It should not harm or it should not make a changes to the existing content of a system wherever we are inserting, wherever we are adding this open source software to any of the system. And license must be technology neutral. So it should not depends on a technology, whether it is old technology, new technology. So whatever the license that we got, for example, if I am getting it on 2022, so whatever the rules and regulation they are giving along with this license, it should be same throughout all my life. That means it should not be depends on any of the changes to the technology or any of the changes to the required environment. So that is what they are conveying here. Okay, so these are the criteria which needs to be followed with the help of this open source software. So if you are having this open source software, all the source code is freely available. You can redistribute it, we can copy, we can do some changes, we can improve it. But main thing is what? You have to pay some money in order to get this opportunities or in order to have these benefits with your open source software. This is regarding open source software or OSS. We'll see the next topic, that is OSS and flaws. Already we have discussed regarding the OSS, that is open source software. So now we'll see about this flaws or FLOSS. So what it indicates? Free, libre and open source software or free, libre and open source software. So what it indicates? So libre in the sense what? It is freely available. That means it is somehow adjective of this free. That means it is freely available open source software. What you can understand by this? So here it has a free. That means we can get the free software as well as that will be OSS, that is open source software. As we all know that if I wanted to have an open source software, I need to pay some amount. But here I am getting that open source software for free. That is what FLOSS here. So it is used to refer the software which is both free software as well as open source software. Flaws indicates what? The software is also free and it is also open source software. That means what? Somehow it is mainly related to free software itself. I can get the source code, I can redistribute it, I can copy, I can manage, I can update, I can give it to anybody, those who are in need without taking any money. So that is what flaws is all about. We'll see the next concept, that is GNU. So as we all know that we have some of the operating system, right? We have iOS, we have Windows operating system and we have Unix, we have Linux. So if you consider their Windows operating system, can we make a changes to that? Obviously no, that is what licensed version. If we wanted to get that source code of that particular Windows software, then we have to pay, we have to get some premium. So then only that is what somehow restricted access to the content of that Windows operating system. But here also we have one operating system, their source code is freely available. The main thing is what? Related to this GNU. So this GNU is also like Unix like computer operating system. What do you have to understand? GNU is also operating system of a kind Unix, and also it was developed by the GNU project. It was developed with the help of this GNU project, and also it is composed wholly of the free software. So if I say this as this operating system, then it will be a collection of software. It will be a collection of programs or a set of instructions. So here this GNU operating system will comprises of completely free software. That means I can get its source code, I can develop, I can redistribute it, copy, and some of the improvement, everything can be takes place without paying any amount. So that is what GNU operating system is providing to the customer. So then what GNU refers here? GNU in the sense what? G refers GNUs and N refers not. And this refers Unix. That means GNUs not Unix. So that indicates GNUs not Unix, and GNU project emphasizes on the freedom, and its logo type show as a GNU that indicates that animal living in freedom. It has a logo, so that shows that animal living in freedom. That means they are completely giving the source code of a operating system. So as we all know that without operating system, computer is just a dumb machine. So if you are getting a source code of a operating system, that is the privilege, right? So we can get that open source software, or we can get that operating system source code with the help of this GNU, which was developed under the GNU project, and in short it will be considered as what? GNUs not Unix. That is related to GNU. And also we'll see the next concept, that is related to FSF. What it indicates? So here free software foundation, free software foundation. So for what purpose they are having this organization? FSF is a non-profit organization. They are not doing anything for the purpose of money. They are not earning anything by doing these activities. What they are doing then? So created for the purpose of supporting the free software movement. So main task is what? They are like a distributor of a movie. So what they are doing? So they are simply supporting the free software movement. Those who are producing or those who are developing a free software, those who are helping others in order to satisfy their requirement regarding any of the software things. So this FSF or a free software foundation will giving assistance or will taking the movements of that free software. Mainly it is a non-profit organization. It is somehow like NGOs for this kind of software which is of free software. And also who started this FSF then? That is Richard Stallman founded FSF in the year 1985 in order to support GNU project and GNU licenses. Whatever the GNU licenses we have, whatever the GNU project, they have developed numbers of free software. So in order to improve the free software accessibility and in order to make the usage of that free software, this non-profit organization called FSF, this FSF has taken a pledge in order to help those particular movement of that free software in the software industry. That is related to FSF or a free software foundation. Next, we'll see about the OSI. So, if I say OSI, you don't think about the OSI model which we have learned in a networking concept. So, here OSI is nothing but open source initiative. So, we have FSF for free software. In the same way, we have OSI for open source software. That is what here OSI refers to, open source initiative. It is an organization which is dedicated to cause of promoting the open source software. So, what they are doing here? This OSI promoting the open source software. So, somehow like we don't know what are the open source software we have in the software industry. If I didn't know about open source software and if I am not getting that benefit from my advantages, then there will be some foundation called, there will be some organization called OSI, that is open source initiative. They are taking an initiative in order to promote the open source softwares. That is what OSI is all doing here. Then who started this OSI? That was started by Bruce Perens and Eric Raymond were the founders of this OSI, and it was founded in the year 1998 of February. So that is what OSI was developed, or it has taken the initiative with the help of this Bruce Perens and Eric Raymond in the year 1998 of February. They started using this foundations or an organization mainly in order to support the open source software and the distribution or promotion of this open source software. If you didn't know what open source software is all about, and if you are not getting benefits out of that, then there will be no need of doing all those things. So we have to promote the software, then there will be a chances of getting a efficient and effective use of all these software in order to give a value for the person or people, those who are working on that open source software. So for that promotion, this OSI is taking a place. And also OSI specifies the criteria for open source software and properly defines the term and specification of open source software. This OSI will going to specify what are the criteria that we have for open source software. Already we have learned regarding the criteria for open source software. They are going to give the source code. It will going to have a free distribution, free redistribution I can say, and we can copy, we can modify, and also there is no discrimination among the field or a person or for the purpose, and license will going to be same throughout the lifetime. So those are all some of the criteria. Then who brought all those standards for this open source software? It has given with the help of this OSI. They have specified all the criteria for open source software, and also they have defined its terminologies, what are open source software is all about, for what purpose they are using, how to use it. Everything will going to be guided and specified by this OSI organization or a foundation. So this is regarding OSI. We'll see the next concept, that is W3C. So if I am saying W3C, that indicates 3 indicates we have 3 W's. What is that then? That is World Wide Web. C represent consortium. So where all the internet relies on this www, that is World Wide Web. So whatever the content is there in the World Wide Web, that needs to be managed and that needs to be standardized. Then who is going to take that in charge? That has been taken with the help of this W3, that is World Wide Web Consortium. They are making some standards, they are making some rules and regulation how the content of that WW should be. So that is related to W3C. So it is responsible for producing the software standards for World Wide Web. So they are helping in order to provide or to produce the software based on the standard of this World Wide Web. So if there is no standard, if there is no boundary, what we are supposed to do and what should not be done. So if there is no guidance regarding all those restrictions, or if you don't know all those standards, then there will be no much quality in the software. But there must be some standards in order to develop any of the software. So that open source software or whatever the content is there in the www should be maintained, should be have some standards as per the requirement of this W3C. So this will going to be the standard which is given to the software which needs to be in the World Wide Web. And also this W3 was created by Tim Berners-Lee. So you would have heard this name, Tim Berners-Lee, in the year 1994. So in order to lead the WW to its full potential by developing common protocols that promote its evolution and ensures its interoperability. So they have brought all these standards for the software which needs to be in World Wide Web. So it was developed or created by Tim Berners-Lee in the year 1994. So it has given all the standard how the data must be, how software must be, and it has given some of the common protocols. With the help of that we can share the content whatever is available in the www. This is what related to W3C. That means World Wide Web Consortium. And all these topics are important. If I say OSI, if I say OSS or FLOSS, all are important for 1 mark question, like what is free software, what is proprietary software, what is open source software, give the acronym or give the abbreviation of W3C, then who is the founder of this. All these questions are important in the perspective of your examination. And also we have a next concept called proprietary software. So till now we have learned regarding what is free software, what is open source software. Can I get a content of the source code of the particular software or a set of program? Then what about this proprietary software? It is a closed software. I can't get access with the help of this proprietary software, or a software which is proprietary in nature, I can't get access. So that proprietary softwares is also called as closed source software, is the software that is neither open nor freely available. So what it indicates then? It is not available freely and it is not open in nature. That means we can't get its source code. So whatever the software that meant as a proprietary software, so we can use its benefit, how much they are giving to the user. So we can't get the data and information of its source code. We can't do any changes to this proprietary software. Why? Because it is not freely available or it is not open in nature. Then what if I wanted to use this proprietary kind of software? Mainly what? In order to use that, it requires special permission by the supplier or vendor. Somehow it is not so easy in order to get the special permissions in order to use this source code. So main is what related to this proprietary software. Source of this proprietary software is normally not available. So we won't get its source code in order to get the benefit out of this proprietary software. So we'll see the next topic, that is freeware. So free software is different and freeware is different, right? So we'll see about this freeware. So freeware has no clear definition, but what we can say that the software which is freely available, that means we are not paying anything, somehow related to free software. So here also we don't have much meaning to this freeware. we are getting some piece of code, or we are getting some piece of software, or some chunks of program. So mainly what it includes, it is mainly related to free of cost. And also here you have to be very conscious what can be done in the free software and what can't be done in the freeware. So in the free software, everything is free. I can do the modification, I can do the changes, I can redistribute it without paying any money. But when it comes to the freeware, here it is free with respect to cost. But listen here, so in generally use software which is available free of cost. So if I wanted to have this freeware, it is free of cost. I don't need to pay anything, and which allows copying and further distribution. It is just what I can copy and I can redistribute it, or else I can distribute it, but not modification and whose source code is not available. So what is the main difference that you have observed here? Which can be freely copied and it can be distributed. It's like we can get it and we can forward it, or we can distribute to some other, but I can't do any modification with respect to this freeware. And also we are not going to get its source code also. Source code is also not available. We can't do the modification and we can't get its source code. Okay, that is related to freeware. And also freeware is distributed in binary form. That means mainly without any licensing fees. So I can distribute it, I can copy its content from one person to another person, but we can't do the modification and we can't get its source code. So if I'm not getting a source code, obviously we can't do the modification. This is related to freeware. We'll see about the shareware. So what is this shareware is all about? It is also a software which is offered as a trial version. It's like a trial version. So once the trial version validity goes off, at that time you can't use it. If I wanted to get its benefit further, then you have to pay some money, or you have to get that subscription, then only you can use the further features of that particular software. So here also shareware is a software offered as a trial version. So it will going to be act like a trial version for limited period of time. Then after that you wanted to continue its feature, then with certain features only available after the license is purchased. Only if I purchased its license of this shareware, then only I can proceed further in order to get full benefit of that particular software. That is what shareware, and its source code is not available. I can just use, I can just copy, or I can just distribute it, but that is for particular time being. That means I can get it only as a trial version. If I wanted to continue with the same features, or if I wanted to have all the content which is available in the shareware, then I have to purchase its license. Then only it will going to allow me in order to use the content of this shareware. And also modification to the softwares are not allowed. So if you are not getting a source code, obviously we can't do the modification. This is related to shareware. So we have learned most kind of types of software. So what about each type of software? What is its abbreviation? Whether it is available freely, can we do the modification, is source code is available or not? So that you needs to be conscious. I hope you all understood. It's all about today's session. Let me meet you in the next session with a continuation of this chapter itself. Until that, you all keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.